Ciao. Now this next sequence is very difficult to actually analyze. And a lot of times that's how theater is. The reason it's difficult is because everything is done very small, very fast. Okay? Anytime you start really getting into these things, you have to remember that you're the actor. Not the director, not the screenwriter. You are the actor. They are not, you are. And because of that, you have to remember that you can slip things underneath the entire surface. Okay? And this takes just a little bit of thought in how to quickly do things very slightly, very small. Always remember in theater, the smallest actions can say the loudest things. Because this isn't stage where everything has to be over the top because no one can see you unless it's over the top. This is film, where in film the smallest, most minute indications of anything tell stories. Like I said before, every movement tells a story. Okay? This is how you get into the whole concept of it. Now this sequence was actually a reverse sequence. You have the Edgar Allan Poe thing that I showed you earlier in a previous film with Vincent Price, where we were doing 4 supporting actors creating a pyramid with a top. This is 4 supporting actors creating a pyramid with a plunge floor. This is a pit. It's the reverse. It's taking the triangle and spinning it upside down. Okay? Which is very interesting in and of itself. And it's all happening so fast that you're not even sure it's happening. Okay? And a lot of this comes into play with very simple, very small movements. One of the first things you learn as an extra, if you're working primarily as an extra, if you're going to do this as a career, is how to head turn, to draw the attention of the focal point to that individual. Okay? Now, that's one thing that you're using as a support. So what you have standing here is all of a sudden 4 supports. Okay? And everything tight knits so that they're drawing the focal point. Well, this builds the pedestal under me. Okay? Because everyone's drawing your attention to me because I'm centered as I'm on the pedestal, I'm the focal point. Okay? You have the side supports, which the director put there. You have the angles in which the director is shooting. Okay? But you have to think about it on another level. You have a bikini-clad model here. Everyone wants to look at that. But how can you? Especially when you can't even realize she's there. Now, how does this happen? This happens several ways. 1, because she's standing to the side, and 2, because her face is angled in a certain way. And that's how the director could maybe position her. So then she goes over the top of that and turns her head, turns her eyes. And in doing that, she quiets down. The small movements of the eyes, the opening of the jaw, the tiny looks in the head, the movements of the head allow her to fade into the background. This is called a background fade. Why? Because the first thing I'm going to do the moment I see a model is put her on a pedestal. So she has to destroy the pedestal. Destroying a pedestal is very difficult because you have to suddenly say, I'm not the star, you are. Okay? No matter what. You know, you can look at any production, any film over the past 20 years, and you can pick any specific actor out of the scene. And you can go, okay, say that's Johnny Depp being the bouncing clown from Pirates of the Caribbean. But he's presenting himself as, hey, look at me! Okay? You can then take the focus off of Johnny, who's the classic example. I love picking on Johnny because he's such a great clown. I mean, he's probably the best clown harlequin that we have ever developed in the past 30 years. But, you know, you take your focus off Johnny and you look at one of the other actors in the production, say, Orlando Bloom, and even he, at times, in his performances, even as Legolas, will suddenly stamp up and say, hey, look at me, when he probably should be, hey, look at somebody over there. And it's just the fact that actors, even experienced actors, have a tendency to forget their basics when you go into the actual board of acting. And a lot of it can be taken out of your mind because the director's sitting here saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. And so many do this, do that directors really kind of destroy performances. And the problem with that is everything turns stiff. Everything becomes robotic. Everything becomes super Rorschach. Everything becomes noticeable. And that's when you're starting to see the entire line of everything. And when you're looking at a scene like what we've done with Roger Corman's Tracy Lords and Not of This Earth, you don't notice any of that, because the only thing you're seeing is the film itself. You're just watching the storyline. You can get so caught up in the storyline, in the dialogue transposing back and forth, that you're not even noticing what the actors are actually doing, because you're so understanding that, yes, that's Jeremy the Hood, and yes, he's the cop, and yes, she's the blonde, and he's the doctor, but you're in the exchange between the cop and and Jeremy, and you're totally lost into what's actually happening because you're just focused on that fight between the cop and Jeremy, okay? And what's actually happening in the conversation between the cop and Jeremy. You've got me sitting there telling Jeremy, well, you're a 2-bit hood, you're this, that, and the other thing. But on top of the dialogue, you have the focus, okay? Here I am playing with a pair of sunglasses to you, and he's trying to keep focus. And he's turning his head to the side, looking this way, that way, kind of like a scared cat in a prison. And by the same token, he's also kicking back to me. And in other scenes, if not necessarily evident in this particular scene, he's trying to one-up. He's trying to say, oh, well, that hot blonde that you're dating is now with me, so you can go off, cop, because I have her now. And he's had that attitude throughout the entire production. And so he's still in that, even when it hasn't even started yet. It's just the beginning of the transition, because this is, their first meeting. Then you go over to the doctor. When Jeremy pulls up with a car, what's the doctor's first impression? It's like, oh my God, did somebody get hurt? I mean, how could you possibly drive that close to us? I mean, she had to gump up on the car there to avoid you. And you're not even seeing all of what he's saying with his eyes, with the glances and turns of his head, because it's that fast, it's that quick. And it makes it more natural. It makes it more like, what would happen if this actually happened in real life? What would people really be thinking and doing if it wasn't scripted? Okay? And this is not improv. This is actual script. So you have to realize that this is the kind of abilities of powerful actors. They can sit there and turn everything around before you even notice it. Trace is absolutely amazing. Okay? You want to see a real actress, look at Trace. I mean, she is just unbelievable sometimes, because not only can she walk around on a pedestal, she can destroy a pedestal, and she can turn the focus off of herself, which is completely rare for most actresses, even today. Okay, even some of the most powerful actresses today have no idea how to completely disappear, how to completely make somebody else a star. Okay? Because she sits there and goes, oh, come on, guys, how many films am I going to do? Were you going to make me because I'm me? I mean, come on, look at him. And there's so few people who can do that. And, she's just incredible with that. She's absolutely amazing. And when you start working with Trace in the sequence, you have to realize that she's sitting there going fully into the argument. She's so understanding of, okay, yeah, I like what my boyfriend just said to you. Yeah, well, maybe my boyfriend's being a little bit too over. Yeah, he usually kind of gets that way. Maybe I should just slug him. And, she goes back and forth, and well, that was kind of cute. I like that exchange. And okay, guys, have you argued enough yet? And all of this happening so fast that you barely even see the transition. And that's the beauty of the whole sequence. Because you have arm bars, you have connects, you have parallels, you have drops, you have ups, downs, you have people going up to pedestal, down from pedestal. It's such a complex movement, and it's happening so fast that you don't even realize what's going on. Because we are all in third veil. This is the beauty of working in third veil. Because all you are is the character. Since all you are is the character, you expand the character to every single aspect of the character. And these things are not just for, oh, it's fantasy, oh, it's horror, oh, it's sci-fi. These are films, these are techniques that you can use in everything. You could use this in a modern-day police drama. You could do this in a futuristic setting. You could do this in an ancient past. It doesn't matter, because the wholeness is your understanding as an actor of what you are showing. The less you show and the more you present is more what it all brings about. Okay? You have to get into the mindset of the actor himself. And to do that, you have to know the script. And you have to know the script so well that you no longer care about the lines. So many times today you'll look at an actor or actress in this film or that film, and you'll say, oh my God, they're sitting there going, do I remember my lines? Do I remember my lines? Because that's what's going through their head. Okay? Once you know the lines, because the lines, yeah, maybe memorizing lines are the toughest part. They're some of my toughest parts, especially working in foreign languages, memorizing a foreign language. I love the final effect, but it's really, really aggravating, really hard. You know, when you're doing that, okay, you've got the script down, okay? So now what? Go beyond it. In everything in theater, you know this, you've been told this, so go beyond it, okay? It's the simplest understanding in the world, but it's also very difficult to deal with, because a lot of actors, actresses have their own concepts and ideas of what they're doing with the camera. I mean, you know, you sit there and people sit there and go, well, I'm playing with the camera because I'm proving I'm not camera shy, or I'm so camera shy I don't know what I'm doing. And it's the back and forth, and it's what are people projecting through the camera. You start getting into all this as a focus, and you start understanding the whole process. Okay? Now we look at our sequence, and you have Trace, and you have the doctor, you have me, and you have Jeremy. Okay? Now, the point of the whole sequence from the director's viewpoint is Nadine comes down because the horn beeped, and the car drives up with the cop and the doctor, and then they're talking, and then Jeremy comes in on the car being rude and being obnoxious and being, I'm going to now take over the scene. Did Jeremy take over the scene? No. Why did Jeremy not take over the scene? The reason Jeremy did not take over the scene is because Jeremy was playing the support. Jeremy is sitting here going, I'm not the star of this film, Nadine is. And because Jeremy is saying Nadine is the star, look at Nadine. Okay? And then he sits there and goes, not only is Nadine the star, but the cop is the star too. So you have two stars, look at those two stars, don't look at me. And he fades into the background. Because he's fading into the background, he's not stealing the shot. Okay? You have to realize how a pit works. The whole purpose of the pit is to say, I'm not stealing the shot. And by the end of the pit, no one performing the pit even knows who actually has the shot. Because everyone is moving downstage. From an acting perspective, you have three perspectives. You have equal, you have upstage, and you have backstage. Or downstage. Backstage is kind of an old term. So you have upstage, downstage, and you have equal stage. Okay? Now, what happens when every single actor in the shot moves downstage? When every single actor in the shot moves downstage, the entire focal point is downstage. Because you're all downstage, there's no upstage and there's no equal. Everything's going down on a slant, and so you're falling into a pit. And this is the purpose of it. It's to sit there and say, I'm not the star. I'm not the star. I'm not the star. I'm not the star. This is how you build the pit. Once you create that sequence, that I'm not going to steal this shot, and you're not going to steal this shot, and no one's going to steal this shot, then you have the completely zeroed film. Now there has to be another shot somewhere in where the film will come up from the zero, but that's okay. You know, we can pedestal anybody. So what you're doing is creating negative pedestals and falling through the floor. Now by falling through the floor, you're creating a very interesting technique. Because again, the viewer is drawn so into the script that they don't notice the characters. They don't notice the actors. Okay? You couldn't tell from this sequence if Trace is dating me or not, because it's so character oriented that you don't even know who Trace is. She's Nadine. And it's kept that way, even in this small sequence, because you've got this tiny little box. And now everyone is moving by eyes, by gestures, by looks, by keeping thoughts in their skull. Okay? A lot of this is keep a thought in your head. Okay? The doctor's biggest problem was, I have to remember that I'm worried because maybe someone will get hit because of that car. And he worked from that. Okay? And he started bringing up that. And the other thing you can do in this is you can bring up a memory. You can sit there, I mean, everyone has memories of some thing or another. Trace could sit there and remember, oh God, I remember that one guy who was saying all this and that, and she'll keep that in her head. And while she's keeping that in her head, her character is showing you the eye movements, the glances, the open jaw, the this, the that. It's all very tiny. The smallest things make the realest looks. That's the most important thing. People are so concerned today with realism, but they don't even know what realism is. Realism in film is not, can I see the pores on your skin and break the makeup line? Realism is it believable? Is this what happens in everyday situations? And the director cannot make this happen. The screenwriter cannot make this happen. The only person that can make this happen is the actors. Because only the actors can make the performance to a performance grade to such an extent that you're watching the production and you're so absorbed in the production that you don't realize you're not in the world.